All right. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Michael. How are you doing, sir? Good to see
I,
you, bright and early and bushy-tailed. All the
oh yeah,
things.
yeah. And if people are tuning in from the East Coast, obviously it might be closer to afternoon their time, but
True,
really
true.
excited for a fun, action-packed, information-packed presentation today on all things Google Analytics 4.
I am sure I am going to learn a lot because I've been diving into GA4 and I'm like, man, there's still so much that when you get so used to the previous version, it's oh man, lots to learn. So I was super happy that you were doing this.
Yeah, we'll be covering some really beginner to intermediate and advanced concepts. And yeah, I think it'll be beneficial for all. So, really excited to get things kicked off. Just responding to some comments.
Yeah, I can handle that too if you don't want to, but yeah,
Awesome. Well, it
tab
looks
is
like we got a
6
few
p.m.
people.
there. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, looks like we got a few people streaming in already. Hey, Matt, how's it going? Thank you for joining. Really excited to get this thing kicked off. So, you ready to rock, Kevin?
I am.
Awesome. Let's go.
So, howdy everyone. My name's Kevin Getch. I am going to be the host today, which means that I don't really get to do a whole lot. I get to sit back and watch Michael educate everybody. So, and I'm going to learn a little bit too as well. I am the founder and director of digital strategy and CEO at Webfor. So I have the great honor of working with Michael every day. Michael is someone he's not only the marketing manager at Webfor, but he's also a partner. So he's an owner in the company. Webfor is an award-winning digital marketing agency that has focused on everything from search engine optimization, website development, content marketing, analytics, and a lot more. Right, cover kind of most of the digital marketing spectrum. And so Michael, with over 15 years experience, it's really cool to see how he's giving back, educating the community, speaking at industry conferences on marketing and SEO, teaching classes at like WSU and local colleges. He also serves as the director of events for SEM PDX, which is one of the largest and first digital marketing or nonprofits to support the digital marketing community. And besides that, he's like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and just a kind of fanatic, a little obsessed and passionate about SEO, all things digital marketing. So, with that, I will hand it off to you, Michael, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the awesome intro, Kevin. Yes, I can't lie. I'm definitely an SEO and data geek. And that's why the Google Analytics 4 is near and dear to my heart, making sure everybody is ready for the upcoming change. So let's get things kicked off because we got so much to cover. So just want to dig in. So, brief overview, and I won't spend a ton of time on the basic stuff like the basic reports and things like that because we'll be going into a bit more of the intermediate advanced capabilities of Google Analytics 4. And I'm sure the reason why most of you are here. But Google Analytics 4 is Google's next generation of analytics, new kind of property designed for the future of measurement. They see this being cross-channel, app to web and web to app, and being able to track user journeys better throughout all those various channels. But a lot of SEOs don't see it as the same way. This was a recent poll by Barry Schwartz, Search Engine Journal. And you can see still 50% of SEOs polled, or 50.2% of SEOs polled, said they hate GA4. I think that's a bit strong just because it takes some time to get used to it. But I'm sure a lot of SEOs at this point are kind of feeling like, I really tried. I looked at it. I set it up. And it's not the same as Universal. It's missing so much information that I used to have access to. So going into a couple of the changes that everybody's seeing, there's some fundamental differences with how Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4 operate. So I want to run through those first before we actually dig into using GA4 and running through some of these various processes. So the first and biggest change, in my opinion, is the data model for Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4 is completely different. UA used a hit-based or session-based model where you can see different types of hits like page views and events. Well, in Google Analytics 4, everything is an event, whether it's a page view, whether it's scroll, no matter what you're looking at, form submission, everything is considered an event in Google Analytics 4, which makes things a bit confusing. On top of that, there's many other changes. How sessions are tracked, the type of session data available, how users are tracked, and this really just is the tip of the iceberg as far as all the changes that we're seeing in Google Analytics 4. But I am here to tell you that you can learn to like it more, and you can learn to be more data informed by Google Analytics 4 and customize it for your business so it works and gives you the information you need to uncover the deep insights to better serve your customers, to increase conversion rates, and so on and so forth. So I'm really excited, and I honestly think it's going to be great. So let's dig in. Let me change my screen here really quick. Just one moment. All right, and we're back. I appreciate everybody being patient there. So what we're looking at here is the Google Analytics 4 home dashboard, which we'll spend a little bit of time in there. But first, I want to touch on setup really briefly because we have so much to cover. So if you don't have analytics set up yet, you can do so in the admin panel. And then under data streams, you can click into your data stream and configure it based on if you want to set it up via GTM, if you want to set it up directly via Google Analytics 4. So that is how to configure it. If you don't have it configured yet, that is step number one. I highly recommend just configuring it and making sure it's at least set up. But there's a lot more you need to do at that point. Tag Assistant by Google, Tag Assistant Legacy, which is this little extension here, can be extremely helpful for making sure you have GA4 installed correctly. So I recommend installing that extension because when you're looking on your site, it will give you information regarding if GA4 is installed or if there's issues with certain tags and give you some insight into that. So hopping back to the GA4 home screen here, we're going to take a look at this and how to customize this and some of the deeper insights. But like I mentioned, the basic reporting will be just kind of glancing over so we can dig into some of the more fun stuff. So the home screen is customizable for you based on the type of business and the type of insights that are most important to you. You can even click insights in the top corner, and this unlocks some nice features to answer common questions that you might have right in the right-hand panel. So this is an awesome capability that's available in most reports now that I recommend you test out and try out on the various reports to see what data you can, what data is coming through and what questions are coming through. So that is a nice advanced option that's available in the Google Analytics home screen. We're not going to get too much into customization of this, but just because we're so limited on time here. So let's first dig into some reports, and then we'll circle back to some events and a lot of other stuff. So first reports I want to take a look at is the acquisition reports. This would be similar to your acquisition report in GA4. You can figure out where your traffic's coming from, what source they're coming from, whether they're coming from paid search, organic social, direct, organic directly, so on. So this would be similar to your acquisition reports you had in Google Analytics 3 or UA. In the engagement reports section, we have quite a few reports in here, like the pages and screen reports, which would be similar in Universal Analytics to your all pages report under behavior. So this is helpful if you're trying to view the performance of URLs. And then you also have your familiar landing page report, which is where users are landing on your site, which is awfully nice to have, because when Google Analytics 4 was created, this didn't exist, and you'd actually have to create a custom report to have this landing page report created. Now, out of the box, they create it for you, which is awesome. Also in engagement, you have the events and conversions reports. So you're able to track all the events that you're coming through, whether that's custom dimensions, custom metrics, or any custom events you have set up. And then you also have your conversions reports, which is what you have enabled as conversions in Google Analytics 4. Now, depending on the type of property you have, you may have some other reports available, like e-commerce purchases, user purchase journey. These will be more on the e-commerce side of things. And you can adjust and modify these for your business. We'll take a look at how to do that in the admin or in the library panel shortly through updating collections. But I just wanted to give a quick overview through some of the helpful reports that you will be using in Google Analytics 4. But this really just scratches the surface, which is why I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's been a lot of webinars out there on the basic reports. And we'll go some into how to customize these for your business. But really, a lot of the major strengths and benefits of Google Analytics 4 is coming out of the custom reporting you can do, and a lot of the custom event tracking and more that's available in GA4. So we're going to spend a little more time digging into that today. So let's take a look at how to customize some reports in general, if we want to do that. So if we're on the pages and screen report. Now, say there's some values in here that are important or say there's some metrics that are important to you that are not showing up in a specific table, right? Maybe you want to know the number of sessions that appeared, or maybe there's some other metric that's critical for you in understanding. Maybe you want, conversion rates or whatever. It's very easy to simplify and customize reports based on what you want to see here. So let's go. Oh, I'm actually going to have to switch over to customize reports because this is the Google Merchandise Store. So I have to use an example of Webfor. So let me hop over here. Engagement, pages and screens. So we will be using the Google Merchandise Store report, but we're a little more limited because we only can edit certain fields in there. So if you want to customize a report like this, say we didn't want total revenue, instead we wanted something like conversion rate, we could just hit the pencil icon here. Going to the metrics here, remove total revenue, type in the value we're looking for. In this case, we'll go for session conversion rate. And then we can go ahead, apply that change. We can see this update here. And then we can go ahead and save this to the current report. Save. That will eliminate that total revenue value, which isn't relevant for a service-based business, and update to session conversion rate. So it's as simple as that. There is an edit pencil icon, and you can edit the actual events or the columns you're seeing in here. Nice thing about basic reporting is you can add secondary dimensions. So say you want to see the session source, and it's awfully nice because you can search and it'll pop up the most frequent or recommended types of dimensions for you. So in this case, we're going to use session default channel group. And we can start to see what page and what type of traffic is driving the most views, right? So we can add or delete secondary dimensions. We can also update primary dimensions. So we'll talk a little bit about content groups and how to set that up. Google doesn't have that set up on their site, but you can update this to page path and screen class, screen name. So you can update these fields based on how you want to customize this report and what works best for you and your reporting and your insights. So just a little bit about customizing reports and adding secondary dimensions, editing metrics. The other piece I want to touch on here is there are comparisons, which is a nice feature. It's similar to segmentation and universal analytics. So if we're in the traffic acquisition report here, hopping back over, and we want to run a comparison, we could compare, let's see, country, if we want to just do US traffic. Country exactly matches United States, and then we can go ahead and apply that comparison and then see how the difference between the US market and total users, right? And we can even go ahead and delete all users and compare US versus non-US traffic. We'll talk about how to do that more with custom segments and then audiences as well. So that's just some of the capabilities of editing the baseline reports, which are nice. And we'll talk more about creating some custom reports here soon too. As I mentioned, there is the Insights tab available in most reports now. This is a newer feature from Google. So I do recommend clicking around and seeing what questions and what insights Google is gathering from the data, from the report that you're on. And this can be actually really helpful to understand or pull specific reporting. Another really great capability in GA4 is the advanced technology of the search. It's I'm trying to think of the search feature name. One second. It's blanking, but it'll come back to me. Not a huge deal. But basically, you could say how many users came to my site in July. And it will answer it for you right there in the search bar, but it will also give you suggested reports to access, and it will bring you right to those reports with that date range in mind. Now, depending on the question, obviously the answers are going to be modified, but this is definitely using machine learning and some advanced capabilities to populate, questions and locate reports for the questions that you have. So that's another awesome capability inside of Google Analytics 4 here. Let me make sure I'm on task because I have I have my agenda I'm trying to follow and want to make sure. 1 second here. All right. So a couple things in the actual setup of Google Analytics 4 that's pretty important. We're going to be hopping back over to the admin settings. Before we get into more of the advanced things, these are some baseline things that you're going to want to make sure you have set up. So under your data settings, you'll want to look at your data retention, and you'll want to make sure that the data retention is set to 14 months. Out of the box, this is set to 2 months. Google's merchandise shop won't let us adjust this because it's their property, but you can adjust this from 2 to 14 months. That's important for certain reporting. So if you're looking at exploration reports, you want the 14 months of data because that's going to give you a longer time frame, longer window to look back through in exploration reports, which we're going to be covering in a lot of detail. There is also data signals, which is something that's pretty critical, especially if you're on the ad side of things. Data signals, which you'll see enabled here in their property, allows you to collect more granular data about your users. They do this through the Chrome user data. Basically, you opt in with your Chrome user data, and then Google Analytics can track things like interests, age, and more demographic level details. Enabling this is important if you're going to be working with Google Ads. From my understanding, and I'm pretty sure this is 100% correct, Google Signals has to be enabled in order to integrate GA4 with Google Ads. Just a call out on this. There is some in your cookie, as far as your cookie policy or your terms of service, you do need to update it to reflect that you're collecting this data. And I definitely talk with someone who is familiar with the types of policies that need to be in place, because that's pretty critical when you're talking about not violating GDPR or any of the different policies that are out there. All right, so those are two of the baseline areas. There's also attribution settings, and we'll get into debug view in a little bit. But in here, you can mess with the different attribution models that you're using in Google Analytics, and we'll take a look at that shortly too. All right, moving along. Before we hop over to the exploration reports, I want to look at two more things. First, in the advertising area, talking about the attribution models, you can look at how that plays out here. So you can go into the model comparison report, and you can actually compare how first click attribution would compare for the various channels to last click or data-driven attribution. And you can actually see the different attributions and transactions that are being attributed based off the different models. You can also go into conversion paths and take a look at which channels are getting the most conversions and how those are being attributed in the conversion path. A key thing is a lot of the models, like time series, let me make sure, time comparison, let me see, time decay, thank you. Time decay, linear, position-based, even first click, last click, and data-driven, they will exclude attribution for direct channels unless every touch point in the user journey is direct. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you have a touch point of direct, organic, and then paid, paid and organic would receive 50% of the attribution, and direct would receive none of the attribution. If you have questions about that, you can always drop us. Some questions. We'll share some links at the end, and we can dig into that a little bit more. Now, I want to talk about creating custom reports inside Google Analytics 4 before we get into explorations and some of the more advanced things, capabilities there, custom dimensions and metrics. So for this case, I'm going to be using the user attributes report, and I'm going to be using the demographic details report. So right now, this is great. We can see country, right? And we could add a secondary dimension, whatever we want, city or whatever it be. But I want, say I'm a service-based business and really only a select portion of cities in the area matter to me, or I want to see more granularly on the city level where my users are coming from. We can actually customize this report, create a duplicate that is at the city level. So that's what we're going to do. So let me go into Google Analytics on Webfor, because once again, Merch Shop won't let me do this. So let me hop back out of here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and customize this report right now. And in the dimensions column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the default dimension to city. They actually have it here. If you don't see the dimension here, you can search for it, or any other dimension that you want. So for city, I'm just going to go ahead and set this as default. apply that change. And then I'm actually going to add a filter here, or just for time purposes, I'm not going to worry about it. I could add a filter to remove this non-set value, but just for time, I'm going to move along. So instead of saving changes to the current report, I'm going to go ahead and save as a new report, and demographic details city, save. So that won't mess with the dimensions in my original report. That will still be accessible via the collections. But now we've created a new report for the city level, which is awesome. The problem is when you create a custom report like that, and there's so many other ways you can customize reports, it doesn't automatically show up in here, which is your collections. You have to manually add this. So let's take a look at how to do that. So under library down here, we would click in there. And then you're going to see the various collections that you have set up here. And these are aligned with the collections you have on the left side of your panel, the left side panel of your Google Analytics 4 dashboard. If you see unpublished reports like Search Console, you can go ahead and publish them. That would add a new collection here. But if you want to just add a report, you got to find the specific collection that you want to edit. So in this case, this is the user collection because it's under users here. So I'm going to edit this collection. And then I'm going to find that report I just created, the city demographic details city report. And then I'm going to go and just move that under here. And then save this collection, save changes to current collection. So now when I go back into the actual user attributes report, we can now see our demographic details city custom report right here that we can click into. And we could narrow this down to just specific states. We could do filter just to Washington, Oregon, for example, if we're Webfor, you're based in the Pacific Northwest, all depending on what is most important for your business. We could also just customizing this report on another level. If we wanted to just look at US traffic, very easy. We could just add the filter of country, exactly matches United States, and then apply that condition. And now we'll only see users coming from the United States. So definitely some different ways you can slice and dice. There's definitely some different ways you can slice and dice the data to your needs. And that is really one of the exciting things about Google Analytics 4. Kevin and the Webfor team was at a conference recently, and Ruth Burr-Reedy was speaking on Google Analytics 4, and she referenced it as kind of a baby Pokemon growing into full-size Pokemon, right? And that's really what it is in its infancy, you have to customize and create and tailor Google Analytics 4 for your business. There's so much you can do, so much more we're going to talk about here shortly, given time. But you really have to tailor it to your business because out of the box, it's only going to tell you so much. So there's a lot of things you can do to customize it, though. So we took a look at collections and how to add some reports, how to create some custom reports, and just a basic overview of some of the basic reports in Google Analytics. Next, I want to actually dig into the exploration reports, which are really exciting. Google's calls these a collection of advanced techniques that go beyond standard reports to help you uncover deeper insights to your customers' behavior. Some limitations on exploration reports. You're allowed 200 exploration reports per user or 500 shared exploration reports per property. Now, so for example, if we create an exploration report in this account, that exploration report is not viewable by another account that has access to this Google Analytics 4 property unless that report is shared to them. And they get view-only access, so they cannot edit the actual exploration reports that have been created. So let's just start by creating a blank exploration report, and I'm going to talk through some of the more capabilities and limitations and all that fun stuff. I'm just going to update the date range here on this. We're going to be using a freeform report for this example. So with exploration reports, you're allowed up to 10 segments. You can only apply 4 segments at any given time. There are 3 types of segments. So you have user segments, session segments, event segments. And then you also have some of these predictive and other suggested segments. We'll talk briefly on those. But basically, a user segment is all events that apply to that user, the history of that user. A session segment would be all events that apply to that session, just that individual session, right? Or an event is just tracking a specific event. So the segment would be looking for users who just triggered a specific event. Getting down here, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because a lot of these insights, you do need a high amount of data in order for you to be eligible for them. I believe the threshold is like 1,000 conversions within a 7-day period to use some of these like likely 7-day purchasers and churners and top 28-day spenders. But there's different ways to create custom segments and custom audiences that go much beyond this. But it's always good to explore, and there is some templates they can even help you create. If you click the demographics template, it will pre-fill different demographics that you can then fill in to create a segment and build an audience if you want to. So segments are a really powerful feature of Google Analytics 4. So say if we wanted to build a segment around US users, country, easy as building a segment is that. There's more that goes into it. Let me see how far along. I'm hopping around a bit, but that's okay. We'll talk a bit more about adding sequences, condition groups, and we're going to talk in a second about exclusion groups as well. So you can see the number of users on the right-hand side that would be in this segment. You can also click Build an Audience directly from here, which is really convenient. It will automatically build the audience for you, and then you could import that audience directly into Google Ads. So say you want to create a segment or an audience, whichever, right? Because you can do these 2 separate ways. That had an add to cart but did not purchase, right? So you can use those for retargeting to Google Ads or compare those purchasers versus those non-purchasers, right? And how that path, how those paths differed in GA4. You can import those audience directly into Google Ads to retarget, which is a really exciting feature. Makes it super easy as long as you have them integrated, which we'll talk about shortly. I'm not going to build an audience right now because we're going to be talking about that more in a second. But I can go ahead and click Save and Apply. And now we have our United States audience. So if I want to do the same thing for non-US, I'm going to add an exclusion group here. So add group to exclude. And when country contains United States, we'll say at any point in time. And then I have to delete this top one because it's looking for something to include users. And then we can see this audience includes 1.1 thousand and it excludes 1.2 thousand. So we can go ahead, label this non-US, and save and apply. Now for I think I might need to edit this actually. Where's exactly matches? There we go. Okay. All right, so we have our segments set up. So now we're able to bring those into the report, United States, non-US, and then we're able to start bringing in some dimensions just based on what we want to look at here. So let me see. All right, so for dimensions, it really depends on the data you want to look at. But for me, I'm going to look at the source of traffic and what devices category they're coming in on. So mobile, desktop, and kind of how that compares there. And just compare US versus non-US is really what I'm going to be looking at in this report. So if I type in source, once again, channel, session channel. Okay, and then my secondary dimension, device category. Oh. Import all of these dimensions. So I'm just going to click and drag source. Source and then device category. And now I'm ready to start populating my metrics. So I think I kind of glanced over it, but a dimension's basically a parameter, an attribute that explains a piece of information about something. So like a product, dimension could be a product name, the product SKU, the product category. If you're talking about users, that could be, device category they're coming in on, or session source. I'll circle back and define that a little more clearly in a second. A metric is any quantitative value you're trying to measure. Most of the time it's numbers, but it doesn't always have to be numbers. But for this case, if we wanted to look at, we'll look at active users, and let's see, page, screen. I think we'll just stick with active users. That's fine for this basic example. Actually, let's see. Actually going to import conversions too. I take that back. Okay, so we can just drop the values in here and we should start seeing our chart populating. Conversions. So now we can see what source of traffic and then device category is driving the most traffic and the most conversions. Currently, you can only sort by the totals column. Hopefully in the future that is updated, but right now that is a limitation. A cool option is you can do nested rows depending on how you have the pivot set up. So if we were to do nested rows, that will actually kind of change how the report looks here. So then you'll see all traffic from Google nested under one area, and then all traffic from each source basically nested in there. Let me hop back. Well, let me finish this, and then I'll hop back to the merch store really quick. You can also mess with the pivoting of the actual segments. So if you want to pivot, or of the dimensions, if you want to pivot on the last row, this will actually change up the order of how you're looking at the segments in the actual report itself. So there's definitely a lot of fun stuff to play with in there. You can also filter out specific events like scroll events and a lot. So really cool capabilities there. Let me hop back over to the merch store to do this next report really quick. So explore. I'm going to set up one more freeform report before we get into funnel. And eventually we'll begin to custom dimensions and more. So freeform report in this example, for the segment, I'm only going to look at the United States. And by the way, I might have mentioned this, I might not have, but you actually have to apply these segments for every single individual you have to apply these segments for every single individual exploration report. So if you have 10 exploration reports, you have to recreate the segment for each of those. Best practice is to actually create a template that has your segments in there, and then you just duplicate that report so you don't have to recreate the segments over and over again each time you're creating an exploration report. Should give me event count, include users when. Let me see. There we go. Exactly matches United States at any point in time. All right, so I've built my US segment. I've applied the segment there. I'm going to go ahead and set this up for my dimensions. So a limitation on the standard reports is you can only use up to 2 dimensions, and you have to add the second dimension. You can't have 2 dimensions sitting there like in like Universal Analytics. You could customize it a bit more with both dimensions. You actually have to click in to add the second dimension every time and customize the report. Country, region, and city. So one of the cool things about exploration reports is you can actually add more dimensions. Region, city. Boom, you could add 3 dimensions. I probably don't recommend adding more than that. It could get really confusing really quickly. But that is beyond the capabilities of the standard reports in GA4. All right, let me bring in some just metrics here. So let's bring in active users again. And conversions again. Let's stick with the same metrics that we're familiar with. All right. And, this is e-commerce for the merch shop, so we could probably be pulling in some transaction data, purchases, things like that. But just for this basic example, you can start to see, and then you can also mess with the pivots like we were talking about, nesting rows, as far as like region goes, and a lot of great stuff as far as filtering. One nice call out down here is in the Freeform report, you can actually update the cell type. So this is the bar chart that displays the horizontal row. You can have this be plain text, so it's just, it doesn't have any visualization there, or you can have it be a heat map. So it will shade the actual columns to show you what numbers are greater. So you can really customize these exploration reports based on how you want them. You can name this report. So if you want to name it City Geo Report, and then you can also, accidentally press that. You can also duplicate this and then carry over those same segments and all of that data, and then customize the report based off different visualizations. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that in a while. So there's a lot of capabilities here in these exploration reports. Just wanted to give you an example of setting up a couple. All right. Let's talk about some of the limitations. So let's circle back to segments real quick, just because I want to talk about sequences and/or condition groups and a couple of things we didn't get, kind of some of the more technical things we didn't get into. Now, the segments are applicable at any level for the exploration reports. So let's dig in. So when we're creating a segment here, say we create a user segment, we can add things that are called sequences. We can add condition groups, and there's more, but those are a couple of the items we're going to be touching on. So, for example, if you only want to look at users who page view or page URL contains, I don't know off the top of my head, their actual like contact page or what their checkout page is, but I'm just going to click this one. We'll say store at any point in time. So if the user first visited this page, we can then add a sequence to this to basically, if they then added to cart, so say add to cart. And you can do this you can set the across all sessions or within the same session. So you can set this on the granular level for each step as far as how these events should be tracked or included. Add sequence to include, step 1. Let me exclude this, add to cart. There we go, add step. All right, so say users who added to cart and then made a purchase. We'll just make this easy to think about. All right, so you can see a basic example here of a sequence. So we're building a segment for users who added to cart and indirectly followed by, but you can update this to directly followed by purchase. So you could go ahead and create this segment. You can also build an audience off of this. But if you can mess with the settings here. So if you want the purchase event, if you only want to include users who the purchase event directly followed the add to cart event, you could do directly followed by. You could also set a time constraint here. So if you want the users to, basically add to cart and within 2 hours make a purchase, right? You can set the time restriction here. And that will only count users who made a purchase within 2 hours of adding a time to cart. You can also set, this on the minute level. So if you want to know users who made a purchase within 10 minutes of adding to cart, and you can add additional steps or sequences. So that's definitely a powerful feature as far as building audiences and segments. So let me delete these really quick. Just want to make sure there wasn't something else I wanted to touch on here. I think it's fine. So there's another way. The sequence is nice because that tells you if a user first added to cart and then purchased. You could also set this up another way where you could just say include all users who purchased and added to cart. This will not, using the and operator will not care if they purchase first and then added to item to cart later, or if they add to cart first. That's why where the sequence comes in handy. If you want to look at users who, for example, viewed a promotion and then made a purchase, or viewed a promotion, added to cart, didn't make a purchase, that's where those sequence steps can come in handy. Condition groups are also very helpful because you can have two sets of groups to include here. So basically, let's say purchase and add to cart. And then you can add another condition group that could be basically completely separate, but the user has to satisfy all these intents. Or actually, I need to adjust this a bit, but let's say purchase down here, actually, and then item view, item, or cart. All right, so this would look at all users who viewed an item or added an item to cart and made a purchase. So that's an example of condition groups and sequences inside Segment Builder. All right, I think we've covered segments pretty well. let's get into funnels really quick, although I'm going to have to kind of hop over this and path exploration just for time. To simply get into goal and conversion tracking and all of the things I want to cover, there's just so much. We're going to be a little limited in time here, and I do apologize for that. So let's hop back over to the exploration reports, take a look at the funnel report out of the box and how to customize that. So here's the funnel report GA4 creates out of the box, which isn't very helpful. You know, it's first open, then session start, then screen, page view, then purchase. Now, if you want to update this, it's really as simple as changing these various steps that are required. So we can go ahead and add a step. Say the first step is item viewed. View item. We can go ahead and apply. All right. Add step. View cart. I'm just going to do 3 examples. Cart. Add cart. And add step purchase. So you can add additional steps. Like if you want to create one that was for promotions, you can create multiple funnels to see how users are navigating throughout your site. Purchase. And then, of course, if you're app-based, there will be, you know, the in-app purchases is actually the one you want to be looking at there. But this is considering website. So we can start to see active users and how they're dropping off throughout the funnel, the abandonment rate, the completion rate of each step. We can also enable show elapsed time, so we can see how long it took on average from one user to get from one step of the funnel to the next. We can also add next action, like event name. So for example, after somebody viewed a cart, we can see the next event that was triggered. There were 2,900 non-purchasers, 946 page views, and then you could filter out things like clicks and scrolls if you don't care about that and only want to look at specific data points. So this is a great way to look at your funnel. You can also look at a trended funnel because this is better if you want to visualize your funnel over time. It'll actually change the chart visualization a little bit. So you can see how users are trending over time. And you can look at one specific event, or you could look at all of them. So down here, you can see purchase and how they compare on the different dates. You also have the ability to make this an open or closed funnel. An open funnel would mean that a user could enter at the view cart in this example. A user could enter at the view cart step. They wouldn't have to do the item viewed step first. They could enter at view cart, then make a purchase, and they would be an included user in your funnel. A closed funnel would mean that they have to complete every step in order to be included in the funnel itself. So definitely some interesting things and more things to dig into there on funnels, but just for time, want to be mindful of that. So, and always feel free to drop us a contact if you have additional questions and all of that fun stuff. So we're going to look at one more, the path exploration report. Same thing, kind of going over it quickly, because I really at least want to get to some goal, custom event tracking, custom dimensions, definitions, metrics, and so on and so forth. All right, so here is your path exploration report, which can be helpful to understand how your users are navigating your site, right? So you can click into the different paths and see the journey they are taking throughout your site. You can break this down to include like country, and it'll do comparisons if you only want to highlight over the US and see how US users are comparing to Canada, and how that journey is, differs for each of them. And there's more to do in here, but something I want to take a look at is the ending point, which can be extremely helpful. So you'd click start over here and then the ending point. So for this example, we're going to use page title and screen class, or page path and screen class. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to use payment as the starting path, although this might not be the best one for this example, but we'll take a look. So we can actually see what URLs users are venturing from to land on like a conversion page. Say this is a thank you page. You can see what page they clicked before and then what page they were on before that. And basically what is driving the most conversions to your funnel, right? So you can clearly see that in this example, the clearance items appear to be driving the most conversions to the payment screen in this case, when we're looking at some of these different sources. We can also look at, dig into this more, but the ending point of this funnel is very powerful in my opinion. Awesome. I wish I could cover more, but I do want to get into custom events and things like that. And the custom search feature, I forgot it earlier, but this is called Search Analytics Intelligence. Search Analytics Intelligence, super powerful. I recommend checking it out, familiarizing yourself more with that. So let's get into event tracking. And I know we're getting at time. If everybody's okay, going a little over. If you have to hop out, that's also okay. But goal and event tracking, this is an exciting part of Google Analytics 4 and definitely one of my favorite parts of Google Analytics 4. So in your Google Analytics 4 property under admin, there's different types of events that can be tracked. There's just the standard events that are tracking right away. There's also enhanced measurement events, which if you haven't enabled this yet, I highly recommend enabling it. It allows you to track things like site search, scrolls, page views, outbound clicks. There are limitations with some of this, like scrolls will only track 90% of a page scroll. There's ways to customize that, which we were going to look at today. We'll see if we have time. And this is definitely something you want to enable, but customize and disable them as you see fit. You may not want to track the form URL or others in there. Okay. So that's just a quick, brief introduction to enhanced measurement, which I'm sure everybody's very familiar with. There's 3 types of events or 4 types of events in Google Analytics 4. There's your standard events, there's the enhanced measurement events, recommended events, which we'll touch on briefly, and then there's custom events. So we'll be talking more about custom events right now. So if you want to create just a very simple custom event in Google Analytics 4, it's pretty easy. It's as easy as going to create event. And then you can actually go in here. We'll use this one as an example. Merch store isn't letting me edit it, but you could create a parameter that the event name is equal to page view, and then the page location equals your thank you page. And then you could name this custom event thank you or form submission. Also, you can copy the parameters from the source event, which will copy your parameters from your page view event and apply them to this custom event. That's helpful if you're have a page or a form that's on multiple pages, because then you can track things like what URL those are landing on through the parameters. So I'll show in real time how to set that up, because I don't think that does a good job doing it. But it would be as simple as Google Analytics 4 events, custom create event, and then you could go ahead and create form. Don't use form submit because there's enhanced measurement event called that. So thank you form submit, and then your event name would equal page view, and your parameter, which would equal page location, page title, page location, or no, page path. Contains, and you do something like /thank you or whatever is in your URL structure. Once again, you can copy the parameters from the source event. You can also add modifications if you see parameters aren't correct. You can delete modifications coming from the page view event and update them in here. We're not going to do that for this example, but then you could go ahead and click create, and that creates that custom event. Easy enough. And then within 24 hours, you're able to come into the event screen and enable this. You could also go into conversions, then create a new conversion event, add that name, thank you, submit, and then save it. And then you don't have to wait 24 hours for that event to come in and start tracking. So that's just an example of a basic goal in GA4. Now, if you want to get really advanced, this is, we're already kind of over time. So I'm going to give an extra 10, 15 minutes if that's okay with everybody, just to get into some of this custom event stuff. I hope that works. If not, you can always replay this down the road. Now, to get into custom events, you do have to have Google Tag Manager integrated with your property. So we'll talk about a few different ways to send custom events via Google Tag Manager and parameters, and how to set those up in custom dimensions and custom metrics. So let's talk a bit about like YouTube page views. So if we wanted to, in exploration reports right now, we could create a report. This is taking a second. We could create a report that tells us basically how many times videos have been viewed. Video title. Okay, those are actually. Sorry, one second. I want to make sure I am. Oh, I think that's actually related to scroll. Yeah. Well, I'm going to show us how to set it up custom. Forget the example I'm going to show you. We don't have a lot of time anyways. So let's take a look at how to set up a YouTube video start that will actually capture what URL the video is being viewed on, video progress, the title of the URL, and then you can use it to go even more granular with custom metrics and things along those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my tag here. I'm going to go create a new tag, and it's going to be a GA4 event tag. I'm going to select my Google Analytics 4 event. I'm going to name this video start. All right. And we can name this whatever we want, video play. Under my event parameters, I'm going to start passing in some data values. So video current time. And then the dynamic parameters, you'll want to make sure you have these enabled. Video current time. You have to do that in the variables section, which we'll take a look at that shortly. Video duration. Okay, I'm going to video URL. And I'm just going to do video name just for time purposes. I could go a lot deeper, but I'm just going to kind of keep it simple here. Video title, I think, is actually. And then this is going to be my custom metrics. So these will be custom dimensions that we could add in here, these parameters. But I'm adding custom metrics so we can use these in exploration reports to track, how many video views are occurring on which pages. And then we could also compare how many form submits, how many video views occurred on individual pages, and break that down really granularly, something we can't do in the current version of Google Analytics. So I'm just going to create a video views custom parameter and then set that value to 1. So this will increment video views by 1 every time a video is started in Google Analytics 4. Now, under triggering, we have to go ahead and set up a YouTube video trigger. YouTube video. And this one, we're just going to track the start. You can set up separate goals for completion and progress. We're going to add JavaScript report, and we'll do video views as the name of the trigger. Capture, start, everything else looks good. All videos, yeah. So go ahead and save this event. So now we can enter preview mode in Google Tag Manager, which is actually helpful for several reasons. I'm glad we've at least gotten here. So let me get an example URL where I know we have a YouTube video on it, and we should start seeing, I think I have a YouTube video on here somewhere. If not, I have another video elsewhere, but let me, by the way, this is a handy guide for Google Analytics 4 if you want to reinforce some of this knowledge or get perspective on other things. Let me just find a video, a blog with some videos on it so we can test this out. I believe this one has 3 separate videos, but okay, awesome. So I'm going to test this in here. So enter this into our debugger, and that will pop up the URL. And then we can scroll down here to the video, any of the videos. And when we click play, we should be able to go back to Tag Assistant. And we can see the video engagement here, the YouTube video, and we can see what values are being passed in, the name, the value. So we can see the video start event. So that looks like it's working correctly. Also, now we can hop over to debug view in GA4 since we have the debugger enabled, and we should start seeing these events passed into Google Analytics 4. We see the video percent, video provider, video duration, video title, video URL. Awesome. So that looks like it's working. So we would want to go ahead and exit out of here, stop debugging. We would go ahead and save and submit these changes in here. All right, continue, submit these changes in here. So we got our video play event. Now, those will start passing into the event screen in Google Analytics, or the events report in Google Analytics 4. So when you're in reports and then you go into engagement events, those would start, that video view would start showing up in there. But if you want these to be able to actually use the parameters we set up as custom dimensions and custom metrics, you actually have to set those up in Google Analytics 4 to be able to use those in things like exploration reports or custom reporting. So in the admin panel, we would go into custom definitions and then create custom dimension. And we could label this wherever we want. But I'm going to create one for video URL. You don't have to add a description. It's going to be event-based. This depends on the type of event, but this one is event-based. Now they're going to give you options. They're not going to see the custom one we just set up. So you're going to have to manually enter it. So that parameter would be video underscore URL, video URL. And then you go ahead and save that. Now within 24 to 48 hours, you'll start seeing, I actually need to edit this, video URL. You'll start seeing those pop up for custom dimensions. And also you can start customizing them and using those in reports. Those are not retroactive, just like audiences and things like that. Those are only tracking moving forward, whereas segments you can actually view backwards a little bit. So we'd actually go ahead and have to create a custom dimension for each separate one of these parameters, video name, and then we could use that in the exploration reports to see what the video name they're viewing, on what URL, the length of time they viewed it, the number of video views. So I'm just going to name this one video viewed, and then video name. Save. I think that was what I named it. Yep. Awesome. So we also set up a custom metric in there that incremented, if you remember, video views, that increments a video view once every time you viewed it. So to set that up, you go under custom metrics. And like I said, that's advantageous for viewing specific events that are occurring on a page level or getting more granular on the exploration reports. So for this, we're going to just call it video views. And then the event parameter is going to be video view. I have to make sure the exact naming convention matches whatever parameter name. So that I actually named it video views. So I need to change that. And then I'm just going to set the type of measurement, depending if you're using time or whatever. This could change, but I'm just going to use standard unit of measurement and then save that. So you've successfully set up a custom metric. So in 24 to 48 hours, you can start using that video view metric inside of your exploration reports and other custom reporting, which is super, super awesome. So that's quick, brief overview of setting up a YouTube event that can track more granularly, and you can customize your YouTube report based on that granular data that you're pulling in. Something I haven't mentioned when you're setting up conversions that I think is important to call out, or custom events or conversions, is now you do have the ability to change the counting method, because sometimes users may submit a form multiple times. Sometimes maybe users may click back and forward, which can cause an event to trigger multiple times. Google Analytics 4 made it very nice to update and change the counting method. Oh, let me see if I'm in the right area. Phone calls. There it is. It's under conversions. You can change the counting method. So you can change this from once per event to once per session. So if you only want to track one form submit per user per session, you can update this to once per session instead of once per event. And that way you know that one form submit's only going to be tracked for that user for one event. Used to be a little harder to, you had to create some custom reporting to get that. Now you don't, which is awfully nice. So Kevin, I want to get your thoughts. I want to go over scroll tracking via Google Tag Manager, how to set up custom scroll tracking, because right now it only tracks at the 90% threshold. And then I want to get into custom audiences. Now, if we're going way too over, I can remove scroll tracking and just dig into custom audiences a little bit. What's your thoughts on where we're at with time?
Man, I'm good with time personally, and people can always watch the video later if they have things they have to go to and stuff like that. So if you have the time, let's jump into it. I think it'll be super valuable for our clients, our team, and just people out there that are looking into this. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I want to go in more like GA4 stuff or e-commerce stuff and some more, but there's only so much time, and I see them quickly. I did not count properly for how much I wanted to cover, so that's okay. But to set up custom scroll tracking, thank you, Kevin, for the affirmation there. To set up custom scroll tracking, we have to get back in Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager. Now, like I said, right now the current event that's set up in here. So if we go into data streams, and then enhanced measurement, once we get this open, and see this scroll event, but as it said, it only tracks when a user gets to the bottom of a page. So a user has to get to the 90% threshold for that scroll event to capture. Now, what if you want to capture users who scrolled 25% of the page, 50% of the page, 75% of the page, 90% of the page, and then track that via breakdown by URL, right? We have to set up custom scroll tracking. And once again, there's ways to do it without Tag Manager, but we're going to talk about how to do it via Tag Manager. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to do the actual trigger setup first. In this case, I could do it either or, but I need to make sure I have the correct variable set up, scroll tracking, label it whatever you want. But what I'm going to be using is a scroll depth trigger. So let me see, scroll depth, awesome. Okay, vertical scroll depths. And then I'm going to set it, they even have the great example here for you. So 10, comma, 25, comma, 50, comma, 75, comma, 90. So that's different percentages that it will track when users basically scroll to that point on the screen, right? So that's simple enough. We've set up the scroll tracking configuration for the trigger. All right. Issues, but we'll see if everything resumes. Hopefully we're okay. Now we'll go ahead and create the actual tag here. So for the tag name, I'm just going to label this scroll, and it's going to be a Google Analytics 4 event tag, like most of them are, using our event tag configuration. Now for this, we're going to use a recommended event name. Like I was mentioning earlier, if you look up Google Analytics for, you could look up event types, but recommended events, you can see the different types of recommended events that they say you can pass, like a login if you have a site for logins, search events. In this case, we're going to use a scroll event. Oh, actually, scroll is an enhanced measurement event. I take that back. But we're going to be just matching the event name that's enhanced measurement, which is just scroll. And then for the parameter name here, there's two ways you can do this. You can track this as one custom dimension, which is percent scrolled, or you can set this up to track a custom dimension for each percentage they scrolled. So you can have one custom dimension for 25% scrolled, one custom dimension for 50% scrolled, and you only have to set up one parameter for either. In this example, I'm just going to set up a percent scrolled parameter and then pass in the actual scroll depth threshold, and then add my trigger here that we set up. Scroll depth, scroll tracking, and I can go ahead and save that. And then I'll verify via GTM, of course. Now, if you want a separate event for each one, you could say scroll underscore and then dynamically insert scroll depth threshold. This would create a separate event for 25%, 50%, 75%, 90%. Then you would have to have a custom dimension in there for each of those names, scroll underscore 25, scroll underscore 50. In my case, and that does give some advantages reporting, getting a little more granular, but there are limitations with number of custom dimensions. You can only have 50 per property and 50 custom metrics registered. You can send more, but you can only have that many registered. So it's depending on your use case. If you're getting close to your 50 custom dimensions, you may want to keep this all under one parameter and one custom dimension, which is what we're going to be doing here. So percent scrolled. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit the preview mode. Well, let's go back to my blog post. Make sure this is loaded. Yep. All right. So we can see the scroll depth tracking occurring here. You can click in and see what parameters, percent scrolled, value 75. And then also because we have debug view enabled, we should be able to go back here, go into debug view on Webfor, and start seeing these scroll events taking place and actually see the percent scrolled, 10%, 25%, 50%. Awesome. And within 24 to 48 hours, those will start showing up in the custom dimensions once you once you import it as a custom dimension, that is, right? We have to create the percent scrolled custom dimension, scrolled, and then percent scrolled. Now, actually, I take this back because there is already a percent scrolled dimension in GA4, which we're going to take a look at how to disable in a second because we set up a custom one. But if you want to populate this report in Google Data Studio, you still have to set up that custom dimension. So speaking of that, because we set up a custom scroll report that's actually going to catch the thresholds of where they're scrolling, we need to turn off the baseline scroll enhanced measurement scroll event in GA4 because we're reusing this enhanced measurement event and passing those values in at a more granular level. So I'm just going to click save here. That will remove scroll tracking in this example. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through a third one because I even want to show you how to set up custom dimensions and for tracking things like main menu clicks and things along those lines. But I have already set that up for GA4, so I'm going to for Webfor. So I'm going to show you how to kind of play around with that in some of the custom reporting, how to play around with some of these custom dimensions. So what we're tracking here is these actual clicks here to any of these main items. So we can see what URL they're clicking more in the main menu and what the name of the link is, and all the various metrics that can go into that to see where users are navigating on our site throughout the main menu. So back into exploration reports. We can create a blank exploration report and we can start pulling in. I'm just going to use the user segment of country. United States. All right, save and apply. Okay, so for our custom dimensions, the ones that I mentioned are the menu click. So what we've set up is the menu click and menu drop down click because we have two separate areas in our main menu. But if I want to look at the menu click URL, I can go ahead and import that, what URL is being clicked on the most, and then import various metrics that I feel are important here. Session metrics, I can do bounce rate, conversion rate, sessions, average session duration. I'm going to go ahead and import those. And what I'm doing is just double clicking here. This will add all these values to the actual report. Now there is the possibility that you're getting some not set values. That's something that we may need to investigate. GA4 likes to do that. You see removing the US segment actually started showing some of the data popping through. So that could be something we need to investigate. But it looks like this could be the home page and then about design marketing. And you can click in and see the various number of times these are being accessed. This has only been set up for a few days, so there's not a lot of data coming in here. But that's an example of how you could use the menu click URL or custom dimensions. Once you have those set up and the data is coming through, you can set those up in the exploration reports and so on. So a lot to go in there, to go through there. Quick thing on channel groupings. You can't actually customize the channel groupings in Google Analytics 4. So out of the box, I know in Universal you could create like Facebook channel groupings or whatever. The out of the box channel groupings as far as organic, social paid, and so on are what they are. You can't edit them, but you can create custom reports that capture all traffic. Like if you want to create a Facebook report, it could capture all traffic from the source of Facebook. And then that's how you could work around creating custom custom channel groupings. Obviously, don't want to get too into that. The last item I really think I have time to cover is custom audiences here, because I do think this is a valuable one to chat about briefly. All right. So setting up audiences in here, like I said, you can set them up when you're setting up custom segments, but in audiences, you can see some of the audience we have here in the Portland Metro, visited our marketing page in Oregon, Washington, United States. But you can go ahead and create a new audience. And there's some suggested audiences, but I'm going to create a custom audience, for example. Now, it's all dependent on what type of business you have. But say, for example, you're e-commerce, right? And you want to create an audience for like frequent purchasers or like gold level customers, right? So you could look at setting up an event or an audience where items purchased, let me make sure this is the right one, is greater than 5, right? You can set the time period. So if you want, like in the past 180 days, you can also customize the days of your audience. So the audience would cycle every 180 days, every 30 days. The maximum limit is 540 days. But you can set up item purchase to be greater than 5. Apply this. And then every time somebody purchases over 5 items, they would enter into this audience, which is great because then you could retarget them for Google Ads, use this audience, right? You could call them premium members, premium customers. But the cool thing that you can also do when you're creating audiences is actually create an audience trigger. So each time somebody enters this audience where they purchase over 5 events, you can create an audience trigger that says new premium customer. And you can decide to select or deselect this if they can re-enter the audience or not. And then save that. And what that does is every time somebody enters this audience, it will actually trigger an event in Google Analytics that you have a new premium customer. You could then go ahead and enable that event as a conversion. If you consider premium customer conversion, just based on how you want to slice and dice the data, or you can use that premium customer to do comparisons and compare against non-purchasers or however you want to do it. So there's a lot of different ways you can create these audiences. You could create an audience where they viewed your contact page but didn't submit, audiences who viewed more than 3 pages but did not submit a contact, lifetime value of greater than 300. And then you can customize the audience triggers and add sequences and get really custom with this. The awesome thing about audiences is you can use these to import into Google Ads, which is great. Google recently released a functionality to actually create audiences inside Google Ads, which streamlines that a little bit, but still helpful for importing audiences. In addition, audiences, you can do comparisons. With segments, you can't bring those into the comparisons we're looking at in the standard reporting. With audiences, obviously for moving forward, because this data isn't retroactive, in the future, you could compare how premium members are doing versus non-purchasers if you had a separate audience for that, versus all US users, and actually understand how those different audiences are performing and how they're behaving on your site, and maybe the different roadblocks that they're running into. All right. There was a few things we didn't get to really dig into. I wanted to talk about integrations, like integrating Google Search Console, integrating BigQuery, Merchant Center, content groups, some more custom events and exploration things we didn't get into.
We'll have to have a follow-up. We'll do a
maybe down the road we have to do a round 2.
Do a part 2. I was thinking about like one of the things you love from an e-commerce side is you can easily create a group that's like these people, this audience added to cart but didn't check out, and they're the amount that they added to cart was over a certain amount, so that we know it's valuable to remarket to, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it wasn't just like a
Mhm.
$10 or $20 item, but it's like no, they added over $100 to their cart, but they didn't check out for some reason. Let's segment that
Exactly.
audience and like make sure we not only if their email, if we were able to capture their email and send a quick note to them, but in the actual platform e-commerce website, but also then show a remarketing ad to them and kind of bring them back with a offer, a discount, whatever it may be. There's just so many
Exactly.
things you can do. Honestly, my favorite feature of Google Analytics 4 so far is the search functionality and that ability that they're using to provide you the data. Because that was one of the biggest challenges I had in the past was like why is this so hard on Universal Analytics to search for something and get an answer? It's like no, it's like literally giving you the answer. This is how many users you had last month. This is how many conversions.
Yeah.
I was curious what the if you've if you've tested the limitations of that yet. So like for instance, what was our US based traffic for July compared to last year? Have you kind of tested that to see does it give you those answers, or is it kind of just showing you reports to go check out?
I haven't tested the search capabilities to that
Yeah,
level and that granular of searching. That example I did at the beginning was pretty long tail and it did a pretty good job serving up the correct report to
yeah,
find that data.
yeah,
So it's getting better. And I know they're obviously bringing a lot of their AI and machine learning capabilities into that
yeah.
because they want to make it easy for users to use. But yeah, no, couldn't agree more. There's so much more to cover. Thank you for suggesting part two. We will do it. We'll get even more advanced in the future and how to dig in there. But hopefully, after going through this and hearing me talk for this crazy amount of time, you feel a little bit more like this. You feel more ready to take on Google Analytics 4, and you feel more empowered to draw insights for your business and help your business make data informed decisions to help you grow, reach your KPIs, and ultimately win. And thank you for watching. Appreciate y'all greatly. If you want to contact us with more questions, I know we've already went way over. I see some questions around the Apple update. I would be happy to chat with you on that. You can go ahead and scan the QR code or grab that Bitly link there to contact us. Webfor has all sorts of fun capabilities. We do a lot as far as analytics things and what SEO and digital marketing, and we always love to chat about that stuff. So feel free to drop us contact, and we would look forward to talking with you.
Thank you so much, Michael. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all. Have a great
Bye,
day.
everybody.